Hare Krishna. So today is very auspicious day of Devashayani Ashadi Ekadashi. Also Vaspaj of His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj. Today lakhs of people have gathered, devotees at the just to take darshan of Lord Vitthal. Many very, very merciful Supreme Lords. And we are very fortunate. I feel myself fortunate to discuss on the words of Lord Vitthal. Lord Vitthal and Lord Krishna are same only. So these are the words of Lord Vitthal, spoken by Lord Vitthal. So it is nice to discuss about this. So last time we had completed verse number 14. So which is very important verse. So we are discussing on this analysis of body and soul. Krishna is speaking from 11th verse onwards. Wherein on 11th chapter, in 11th verse, Krishna says, don't lament unnecessarily. 12th, he chastises Arjun. 12th verse, he tells how all individuals exist eternally. Very important verse. 13th verse, he spoke about how the change of body is the natural. Verse. And 14th verse, he spoke how one should become dhira, the temporary dualities, tolerate the temporary dualities, don't become too much disturbed by them. So now we will begin with the 15th verse. So please recite 15th verse.
Asim Prabha Pro.
व्यथयन्ते ते
Purusham Purusharshava
पुरुषर्षभ
Samadukha Sukham Dhiram
समदुःख सुखं धीरं
Ovam Ritvaya Kalpate.
सोऽयं मृत्वा कल्पते.
Translation. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Yeah. So in the purport, we see Prabhupada says, first line, very nice line, Prabhupada says, anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly person eligible for liberation. So what is the eligibility criteria for liberation? One has to have determination for advanced stage of spiritual realization. Means spiritual life is not to be meant to be practiced just as some ritual, somehow do something, but one should be determined for the advanced stage of spiritual realization. One should be determined that I want to advance, I want to become an advanced devotee, I want to become a pure devotee. So for that one should have a determination, and also at the same time one should tolerate happiness and distress. So this particular quality of Samadukha Sukham, tolerating the onslaughts of happiness and distress, is so many times Krishna has spoken in Bhagavad Gita. If you see, repeatedly Krishna will speak again and again about this quality. In further verses also, verses coming ahead, Krishna is going to speak it again and again. So actually in this world, when we are living, there is always, we can expect that there is a side of happiness and distress. No one can avoid. Even though one may become the most successful person of this world, the distress will still come to him. One cannot say that no distress at all will come to me. That type of situation exists only in the spiritual world. So if we want that state, that's why we have to be determined to go to spiritual world. But till that time we go to spiritual world, we have to tolerate these distresses. And more a devotee tolerates these distresses, happiness anyways are welcome. Everybody welcomes happiness. Nobody asks why happiness is coming to me. Isn't it? There should be some distress. Nobody asks like that. So distress, tolerating distress is something which if a person does, eventually we'll see that he'll become very strong-willed. He will become very, very, strong-hearted. And that's how, he can remain determined in his life very powerfully. So one of the very principal teaching of Bhagavad Gita is that do not give up your duties despite these upheavals in this world. There will be sometimes happiness, sometimes distress, sometimes success, sometimes failure. But one should not give up one's duties. One should perform one's conditional as well as constitutional duties. Should be performed very sincerely by a person. Certainly, we will have some emotions. Emotions are not denied. But at the same time, one should not run away from the duty. And that's what Krishna is teaching to Arjun. That just because now there is some distress you are feeling for fighting, do not run away from your duty of fighting. Similarly, a devotee should be very careful not to, compromise on his duties of spiritual life also. Our chanting, the four regulative principles, and other sadhana standards, our services, they should not be given up, although there may be some distressful situation. So that's what he is still teaching. So such a person becomes eligible for liberation. Such a person is eligible for liberation. So if one is interested in getting rid of this cycle of birth and death, this dualities of happiness and distress, then one should tolerate them and also continue his duties in that situation. So further Prabhupada says that he gives two examples. Even those who are sannyasis, those who take sannyas order of life, it is not such an easy thing. What was Prabhupada's response when Bhakti Thakur came in his dream and instructed him, you take sannyas? What was Prabhupada's response? You remember, you know this, right? Bhakti Thakur came in the dream.
I have so many responsibilities to take for my family. How can I take so early?
Yeah. But before that, Prabhupada gave some word. Anybody knows?
How horrible.
How horrible, yes. Prabhupada said how horrible this is to take sannyas. So it is not easy thing to take sannyas, right? But a sannyasi has to, if he is determined to perfect his life, then sannyasi has to do that, thing, which is like, not very palatable thing, basically for our mind and senses. So we cannot always do the things which are palatable for mind and senses and then think that now that's how I will practice devotional service. That cannot happen. One has to, because again here as Krishna is going to emphasize that devotional service means coming on the platform of soul and coming out of the platform of body. So if one wants to come out of platform of body, there has to be some sacrifice with the demands of body and so mind. Like Ekadashi day now, we cannot get, grains to eat. Today is Ekadashi also. So now if somebody says, no, don't, I don't want to torture my body like this, then one has to remain in material world only. If he doesn't want to, if he wants to give a lot of comforts. But one thing is that even if one says that I want a lot of comfort, still your body cannot be comfortable where you are, because there will be birth, old age, disease, death. These things are going to happen only, isn't it? So similarly, this is one example Prabhupada gives of a sannyasi, that he has to, become detached. There is no option. If he wants to, perfect his life, then he has to become detached. Otherwise, he cannot be sannyasi. So similarly, Prabhupada says that Arjun is a warrior, Kshatriya. Now, he is advised to persevere, although it is difficult to fight with his family members. And similarly, beloved persons. Prabhupada says. Although for Arjun it is difficult to fight, it is tough, but he has to do his duty. So these two verses, last verse and this verse is again and again emphasizing that although our duty is difficult to do, it should be done. So although sometimes we may feel like chanting, or we may not feel like chanting, one must do, at least as a duty. It cannot be given up. So when somebody remains like this, steadfast in his duty, this without caring for whether it is palatable or unpalatable, that person can make a progress in his life. So, and Prabhupada gives another, again comes to the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he is a god, but at the same time, if we see from a human perspective, he had only two people in his family remaining, and none of them were male members, right? Both were Matajis. And one Mataji was very old, his mother. Another Mataji was too young, his wife. So hardly neither of them could actually have sustained themselves on their own. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the only male member in the family. And all Navadvip Vasis, they were so much loving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Still he took sannyas. Why? Because he was determined for the deliverance of the whole world. So it's like, even a soldier also, he cannot say that I want to sit comfortably in my house, in AC room, and that's how I will remain happy. Then he cannot be soldier. But if he wants soldier, if he wants the glory, if he wants to do some higher duty, then he has to give some sacrifices. He may not be able to have that comforts, isn't it? So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he took that. Yes, Tyaktva Sadharmam Charanam Bhujan Harer. No, not that verse. Takta Sudustejam Surepsitam Raja Lakshmim Dharmishtha Vachasa Yadagadharanyam Maya Mrugam Daita Ipsita Anvadhavat Vande Mahapurushate Charanarvindam. So that was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He took that, step in order for the higher duties, in order for higher realization. So, yeah. So His Grace Bhojan Prabhu says that when one follows one's dharma duty, that is called as Nishkama Karma Yoga. Means he says that if he performs his duties in this spirit, this particular spirit of this verse, that is called as Nishkama Karma. And this Nishkama Karma leads to Jnana. This Nishkama Karma brings out Jnana, and from Jnana comes Mukti, liberation. And then after attaining the Mukti, liberation, then there is no compliance for such rules and all that. One becomes free from the rules also. Like that. So in this way, in this verse, Krishna has mentioned for the first time a spiritual goal, that is liberation. So Amrutattvaya means eternal life. So he has first time mentioned the spiritual goal like that. So this performing prescribed duties and jnana are prerequisite for mukti, liberation. Okay, so 16th verse, please recite.
BLN Sekar, bro.
नाशतो विद्यते भावो
नाशतो विद्यते भावो
नाभावो विद्यते सतः
नाभावो विद्यते सतः
उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तस्
उभयोरपि दृष्टान्तस्
त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः.
Translation: those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
They means who? No. They means who? Sages. Yeah. So even Krishna is quoting previous other authorities also. So Darshibhi, the word comes in verse as Darshivihi, means the seers of truth. Those who are seers of truth means other sages, they have also concluded this. So Krishna is also quoting. So that shows that we have to also follow in footsteps of the Lord in this regard, especially that one should also know what different authorities have spoken, and one should speak only what is authorized. So, and we see many places that is there also. Krishna will tell, time to time he will quote, although Krishna is himself supreme authority. So what is the need for him to quote from others? Whatever he says is a Brahma Vakya, isn't it? It is, where is a question of Krishna quoting somebody? There is no need. But because in order to set the right example that, how one should quote various authorities, one cannot just make one's own statements, but there should be authorized, from the previous authorities. So that's why Krishna is quoting. So this is very important verse. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Ubhayor api drushtoantas tva anayos tattva bhartarshibhi. So, those who are seers of truth, what they say? Those things which are material, basically, or transient by nature, there is no endurance. They are not going to remain forever. So there is no material things which will remain forever. And second thing is, those things which are spiritual, they are never going to be destroyed. Also, this is a very simple statement, but it's very profound, because that is what is inspiring. Krishna is inspiring Arjun through that. Spirit soul is never going to die. So spiritual things will never be dead, will never be finished. Whereas material things will never endure. They will go also. Like for example, if we keep one fruit, it is the nature's law that eventually it will be decayed. It will go on. No fruit can remain forever. Within 8-10 days, you will see that the fruit gets decayed. Even if we make plastic fruit, still it will get finished. Isn't it? So in this way, everything material is transient by nature. So His Grace Bhurijan who says those things which exist do always exist, whereas those things which are non-existent are always under flux. They are always changing. And Prabhupada, now you see in the purport what he does. He quotes medical science. He says that even medical science is proving that, what is that? The body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of different cells. Even modern medical science is accepting it. And this is the result. So there is actions and reactions of various cells, and that's why there is growth and old age are taking place in the body. Whereas spirit soul never undergoes such actions and reactions. Spirit soul is always existing the way it is, permanently remaining same. So although the body changes, spirit soul never changes. Body becomes young, and then old, middle age, old, and death. Soul never becomes young, old age, and disease, and whatever, death or anything like that. Soul never undergoes these stages. So sometimes people say, my soul is young. Soul is always young only. Soul is never old. Although it is old only, oldest, but it never becomes old. Right? Because soul is eternally existing always. So by nature, the body is ever changing, or everything is material world is ever changing. It is always under flux, whereas the soul is eternal. So Rupa says that here in this regards, impersonalist and personalist agree. There is no fight. They both agree. This is in this regards, both are in unison with each other. That soul always is permanent, whereas body is temporary. Material things are temporary. And further, Prabhupada is quoting Vishnu Puran. So Prabhupada says that, then further he says in the purport, so this is the beginning of the instruction given by law to the living entities who are bewildered by influence of ignorance. So beginning of instruction in spiritual life is what? In spiritual science is the science of spirit soul. Understanding that I am not this body, but the spirit soul. Aham Brahmasmi is the first spirit what you say, the first lesson or first chapter of spiritual life is Aham Brahmasmi and how this material world is temporary. This is the first lesson. So Prabhupada says, what is removal of ignorance? Removal of ignorance means establishing our eternal relationship with the Lord and understanding the difference between the worshipable and the worshipper, the Lord and the living entity. So one statement Prabhupada makes further, one can understand the nature of the Supreme Lord by thorough study of oneself. By thorough study of oneself, one can understand the nature of the Supreme Lord. How do you understand whether rice is cooked or not? Any cooks here? Yeah, you take some little rice particles and try to press it and see whether it is cooked or not. And from that we can understand the whole rice is cooked. Why? Because that rice particles are part and parcel of entire rice, right? Same way we are part and parcel of Lord. So what we are, same the Lord is. So we are what, so whatever propensities we have, they are originally present in the Lord. So we are Satchidananda, Lord is Satchidananda. We want to enjoy, we want to be happy, Lord is supremely want to be happy. We have desire to reciprocate, Lord has also desire to reciprocate with them. So our own study, so that is also one way. That's why Sankhya also it was this, that study yourself and understand what Lord is. At the same time, one has to understand the difference between oneself and the Supreme Lord. So there is qualitative oneness and quantitative difference. So now these rice particles are qualitatively same as the whole rice, correct? But quantitatively are the same. Somebody is hungry, you say take 2 particles. Ultimately it's rice only, right? Whole rice or 2 particles, same only. No, quantitatively it is different. So quantity wise, the Lord is huge, whereas quality wise we are same. Quantity wise there is difference. So this is the Prabhupada says that this is how there has to be relationship between part and whole. We are part, Lord is whole. So and we are all what? We are energies, energy of the Lord. So we know that Lord has got 3 energies, which will come ahead also more. There is superior energy, inferior energy, marginal energy. So all these are energies. So now one sense, energy and energetic are same. Why? Because if somebody Shaktiman is there, without Shakti, how can we be Shaktiman? Like somebody says that he's rich person, but he has no money. How can we be rich person? Isn't it? So Shaktiman means he should have Shakti. Also, Shakti cannot exist without Shaktiman. Just like there is a tube. Tube means he should be giving light. Otherwise, what is the meaning of a tube? At the same time, light cannot come without tube. So in this way, there is a oneness between Shakti and Shaktiman. Oneness between the energy and energetic. At the same time, energetic is considered to be the source and supreme, whereas energy is considered to be subordinate. Why? Because energetic se hi energy aata hai. So energetic is considered to be supreme and energy is considered to be subordinate. Energy is dependent on energetic. So in this way, Lord is the Shaktiman, energetic, whereas we are all Shaktis, energies of the Lord. And in this way, we are subordinate and servant. So this is very important concept. Prabhupada is touching over here our Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. How there is qualitative oneness, at the same time quantitative difference. Although we are one unit, Lord and the living entity are one unit, but still Lord is master, living entities are subordinate. They are same in terms of quality, but different in terms of quantity. And this is also so even in the liberated state. So that's what Prabhupada is quoting. So one sense actually, the body, we see that it changes every moment by the actions and reactions of different cells, but the soul remains the same despite all changes of body and mind. So one says actually soul has nothing to do with the body, whether subtle or gross body. Soul is aloof from gross and subtle bodies. And in this way, the products like lamentation and bewilderment are the products of gross and subtle body. And soul is aloof from that, actually speaking. So somebody, that's why he becomes self-realized, he also becomes aloof from lamentations.
नहीं
And...
आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
Oh, really? All of you are not able to hear me?
No, Prabhuji,
No,
we
can
can
hear
we are
Prabhu.
able to hear you, Prabhuji. We are able to hear you.
Able to hear, Prabhuji.
There may be a problem from your side, Prabhu, then. Because others are able to hear. So what we are discussing, that soul being aloof actually from gross and subtle body. Soul is aloof from gross and subtle body. So gross and subtle body produce lamentation and bewilderment, such emotions. So if person becomes self-realized, that means he comes on the soul platform, then he can become free from lamentation and bewilderment also. So the relationship of the body and soul is simply due to ignorance. Ignorance makes the soul misidentify himself with the body. And because of such misidentification, a living entity undergoes various levels of happiness and distress. Like that. So in this way, Krishna is again chastising Arjuna now. And he tells what the authorities, those who are seers of truth, they had told the difference between body and soul. So indirectly what Krishna is telling Arjuna, that you are speaking very, very scholarly words before, but you have not understood things rightly. Although you are speaking very big words, you have spoken so much of arguments, but you have not understood the things rightly. So in this way, he clarifies the truth. So these are the two basic aspects of truth. Krishna says, Nasato vidyate bhavo and na bhavo vidyate sataha. These are the basic elements of truth. So first of all, the material body and all material situations are temporary. They have no actual existence. And only those things which are sat, eternal, truly exist. Now here Varun Prabhu has put one question. What is the difference between mukti and going home back to Godhead? Going back to Godhead is the supreme mukti. Mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. It's a supreme part of mukti. So going back to Godhead is also mukti only. But there are some different mukti is also referred by various ways. Sometimes, even going to Swargaloka also is called as mukti. But Bhagavatam gives the real definition of mukti means mukti hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. Being situated in our constitutional position in the spiritual world is called as real mukti. Okay. So now please go to 17th verse.
Chaitanya Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. तेन सर्वम् इदं ततं विनाशम् अव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति.
Translation.
That which is the indestructible. No one is able to Sorry? Yes, Prabhu?
Okay. So that which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. What is that which pervades the entire body? Consciousness, which comes from soul, like that. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says that this verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. So soul is present, spread all over the body. But we say that the soul is present in the heart. How is spread all over the body? Through? Okay, blood will come out, but consciousness. Through consciousness, the soul is pervading all the body. So same way, Supreme Lord also is pervading all over the creation. How? Through his energies. So the soul is pervaded all over the body through the consciousness. And that's why we see that every part of the body appears to be conscious. Whether we may pinch in our cheeks or we may pinch in our leg, still there is a same feeling. There is some feeling arises, So why? Because the consciousness is spread all over the body. So, and we see that in our own life also, we are conscious of the pains and pleasures. So anywhere there is some problem in the body, immediately we become very much conscious, isn't it? That shows that this consciousness is spread everywhere. But at the same time, the difference between Lord and us is what? Lord is conscious of all the bodies, which will come ahead. Whereas we are conscious of only our own body. So we are aware or conscious of our own pains and pleasures. Whereas Lord is conscious of everybody's pains and pleasures. Because Lord is situated in everybody's heart as Paramatma. We are not. So we are ourselves only. So we know about our body like that. And then Prabhupada quotes ahead, what is the size of the soul? 1/10,000 of the part of upper portion of the hair point in size. That is the size. So if we take our hair and divide it in 10,000 parts, that is the size of soul. And for that, Prabhupada has quoted 2 Upanishads, Shvetashvatar Upanishad, Balagrashata Bhagasya, and also, I think this is Mundaka Upanishad or Katha Upanishad, Keshagrasata Bhagasya. So both are from different Upanishads, but the meaning is same. So where does the measurement of soul comes in? It is not designed by us, it is coming from the Upanishads. It is coming from the Vedas only. So this particular spirit soul, who is so tiny, so minute, is the basic principle of material body. Soul is the basic principle of material body. Without soul, body cannot exist only. Isn't it? A living body cannot exist without soul. In fact, a non-living entity cannot also exist without particular soul, because the soul is the one who gives shape to non-living entities also, right? No car can move without a driver, and no car can be present without also driver being of a person being manufacturing it. So basically, that's why the spirit soul is the most important personality, whether within this body or within this material world. And the influence of spiritual spark is spread all over the body. Prabhupada says, as the influence of active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. The medicine, the active principle of medicine, it spreads throughout the body. Same way, the consciousness, that is the influence of soul, is spread throughout the body. So that means a body without soul is called as dead, corpse. It's a corpse. The body without soul is a corpse. The same body which was functioning very nicely, but when the soul goes away, the same body becomes practically inactive. It becomes practically useless. So, and Prabhupada says, what is the proof? Once the soul leaves body, the consciousness within the body cannot be retrieved by any mechanical means. You cannot bring dead body back to life. So we know about this Walt Disney, right? He told doctors that I am maybe dying now, but I am giving you all my wealth, but bring me back to my life. And many people have been trying to do something like that. Bring me back, my dead body, you preserve it and bring it back. But it is not possible. It is not possible. Only one person can do it. Who can do it? When he did any instance?
Narad Muni.
Narad Muni? What Narad?
Chitraketu Maharaj.
Chitraketu son. Okay, Narad Muni also has got some potency, also like that. Because Narad Muni is also one of the
Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Krishna bringing Sandipani Muni's son back from the dead, from Yamaraj, he brought him back. And he says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also brought back Shiva's Thakur's son. Yeah. So that way it is possible only for extraordinary, potency. But by our mechanical means, by way we cannot bring the consciousness back. How much ever one may try. So this Walt Disney, he gave a lot of money to the scientists, but they could not bring it back. So anyways, he was dead only. So his money is gone only. He cannot be the possessor of money anyways, right? Further. So, but then consciousness could not be brought back by any mechanical means. So this way Prabhupada says, it proves that consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but due to spirit soul. So these are all the proofs of spirit soul, Actually, in devotee circle, we know all these things, but we have to know them very systematically so that we can, also ask the question, answer the questions. So the concept that the consciousness is produced at a particular time of combination of matter is refuted herein. Consciousness is not the product of a material combination. Consciousness comes due to presence of spirit soul. If it is the product of material combination, then why don't you make? Prabhupada always one argument was there. Why don't you produce a life? Why don't you produce a life through your experimentation? Like that. So, and then Prabhupada further is quoting Mundaka Upanishad, like that, the size and all that. So this Mundaka Upanishad says that this spirit soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Samana, Udana. These are the 5 airs. Actually, in the body, there are total 10 airs, but 5 are primary. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Samana, and Udana. These are primary airs. So they have different functionalities. Prana is for inhalation, Apana is for exhalation, like that. There are various types of airs floating within the body. And this soul is floating among all these airs. So what is the Hatha Yoga system? Hatha Yoga system is basically controlling these 5 types of air on which the soul is floating. And by different sitting postures. So what is the purpose of such a Hatha Yoga system? Why to control these 5 kinds of airs? Not for any material profit, but for liberation. The purpose of Hatha Yoga system is not just to keep body healthy, but to attain liberation. So that's why that stage of this thing, asana. After asana comes pranayama, then pratyahara, and then dhyana should come. Dharana should come eventually. Means what? One should also have the meditation on the Supreme Lord, Paramatma. So that is the purpose. So these 5 kinds of body airs are there regulated, by which what happens? The mind becomes peaceful, and then the person can focus his attention on the Supreme Lord. And in this way, he can attain liberation. So that's the purpose of even Hatha Yoga system. Then what is the location of the spirit soul? So it is in the region of the heart. So, and where it is stated? It is stated in Mundaka Upanishad. It is in the region of the heart. And Prabhupada says that it is beyond the power of appreciation of material scientists. So through material scientific experiment, one cannot understand. One cannot detect through any electronic or mechanical instruments. You cannot find out the soul. You cannot see the soul. Even through the most advanced microscope, you cannot see the soul. One reason is, first of all, it is extremely tiny. Another is also, it is spiritual by nature. So spiritual things cannot be seen by material equipments, like that. So, but Prabhupada says that individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul. And thus all the energies of body's movement are emanating from this part of the body. So heart is the central part of our entire body, like that. And now here Prabhupada gives a medical terminology. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. Which corpuscles carry? Red corpuscles, RBCs, right? We all know, right? WBCs and RBCs are present in our body. So red blood corpuscles, they carry the they carry oxygen. They carry energy and oxygen. So when the soul passes away from this position, the activity of blood generating fusion ceases. So when soul passes, then there is a fusion happens in the blood and it ceases. So Prabhupada says medical science knows the importance of red corpuscles, who are the spreader of energy throughout the body. But what is the source of that energy? They are not able to detect. That source of energy, spirit soul, who is situated where? In the heart. So heart is the place of spirit soul, and then through this, the spirit soul is the one who is emanating all the energy, and that energy is transferred through these RBCs, throughout the body, and in this way, there is a active consciousness felt throughout the body. And then Prabhupada says that such atomic particles are compared to spirit soul is compared to particles in sunshine that we discussed last time, right? So there are particles in sunshine, innumerable radiant particles are there in sunshine, right? Similarly, the fragmental parts of Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, that is called as Prabha. So this Prabha is superior energy. So this way Prabhupada says, whether we may take modern science or we may take Vedic text, you cannot deny the definition, you cannot deny the existence of spirit soul. Even through modern science, we can prove the existence of soul, because soul is the generator of the energy within the body. Whereas through Vedic text, so it is very clearly mentioned in so many places that this heart, soul is situated in the region of the heart, and it is the source of the whole energy. Okay, so there are some questions, it seems, here. So this refers to the second point, which was mentioned in the previous verse. Nasato vidyate sataha. Na bhavo vidyate sataha. Sorry. The second point was na bhavo vidyate sataha. So Krishna has told that how, the soul is indestructible. So he will not mention his most basic point again in Bhagavad Gita. So in this particular verse, he has given the Na bhavo vidyate sataka explanation. Now in the next verse, Krishna is going to speak about Nasato vidyate bhavo explanation. He is going to talk about body. This verse he has talked about soul. Next verse he is going to talk about body. Okay, so two devotees have put some questions. One question is, in the spiritual world, are soul and spiritual body two different things? No. Spiritual world, there is no different body. The spiritual spirit itself is a body. Yeah, so how can we understand this based on the size of the soul as mentioned in scriptures? It is so small in the spiritual world also? No. So when the spirit soul comes to this material world, he comes in the seed form. So from spiritual world, there is a full-fledged manifestation of a soul. Again, it cannot be measured because there is, it's immeasurable always, spirit soul also, because you cannot measure spirit with your tape. Kitna body aapka size kitna hai, wo nahi measure kar sakte aap. So, but when it comes from spiritual world, it comes to the material world, it comes in a seed format. That's why it's a tiny size. But in spiritual world, it's a full-fledged manifestation. So why it comes in the material world like that, in the spiritual world, although if the soul is indestructible, soul is not destroyed, but it is like compressed now. It's like sikud gaya wo soul. Sikud gaya, compressed kiya hai. Why? Because now he is covered by the whole avaran, coverings of gross and subtle body. But the energy of the soul is not reduced, it is there. And that's why whole body is functioning, So once I think one of the Maharaj, he had come in our temple in Kunjavihari days, I remember. So he asked, amongst all of you, who is the most fattest personality, biggest personality? So there was one devotee who made him stand up. So you see such a big body, but one small spirit spark is moving the entire body. Can you imagine the power of spirit soul? Itna bada heavy body hai inka, But that small spirits, spark of spirituality, the spiritual spark, it is moving the entire this body and functioning this entire body. This body is dancing and jumping in the sky, but from where that energy is coming? That energy is coming from that spark. That is the power of spirit soul. Do impersonalists believe the existence of soul and super soul in the body? Yes, they also do believe, but they think that they are same only. That's what they say. They also understand the existence of super soul and soul, but sometimes they think that it is same only. Or after liberation, they merge into each other. That's what they say. So they also believe existence of soul and super soul. Okay, so let us go to 18th verse. Please recite.
Chandra Bhushan Bro.
अंतवंत इमे देहा
Antavanta
देहा
नित्यस्योक्ता शरीरणा
नित्यस्य शरीरिणः
अनासीनो प्रमेयस्य
अनासीनो प्रमेयस्य
तस्माद् युध्यस्व भारत.
तस्मात् युध्यस्व भारत.
The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharat.
Yeah. So this material body now Krishna is explaining. Nasato vidyate bhavo verse. This body is going to surely perish one day or other. It may perish immediately, or it may do after 100 years. It's only the matter of time. There is no chance that the body can be maintained indefinitely, eternally. Body will surely be withered away. But so in this way, he says that body is never going to remain and spirit soul cannot be killed. So in this way, you should fight, perform your duty. So Prabhupada says, so from various viewpoints, there is no cause for lamentation because living entity cannot be killed and neither the material body can be saved. So in this way, so better to fight and do our own duty and not lament. So further paragraphs, Prabhupada says, as sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as spirit soul is out of this body, the body begins to decompose, isn't it? You have seen that dead body? We cannot keep it for many days. It immediately starts to decompose. One day, more than one day, if we keep, all type of bad smell and all will start coming. Horrible smell comes actually. Sometimes we see that some hog or something, rat, they die in our neighborhood, somewhere in the sewage lines or something, So now as such, rat is wandering in the house. It is not smelling much. ऐसा कुछ बहुत smell नहीं आता है when it is wandering. As soon as the rat dies, immediately the bad smell starts coming. As soon as some hog or somebody dies around, immediately bad smell comes. In general, we are not so disturbed. We cannot even detect that some hog or something may be there in the backyard, in the sewage lines or something. We cannot even understand when the hog is moving around. But once the hog dies, all bad smell will come. Then we have to call, municipality people, get this dead body removed, isn't it? So that's what, as soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. And in this way, this proves that spirit soul is the one who is maintaining the body. Body is not maintained simply by eating, sleeping, medicines and all that. It is the spirit soul who is being maintaining the body. And even if, the soul leaves the body, even if you put a lot of medicines in that dead body or you put a lot of injections, it cannot be revived like that. So in this way, Prabhupada says the last line, Arjuna was thus advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily consideration. So religion is more important. Religious duty is more important than bodily consideration. So anyways, the body is not going to remain. It will die one day or other. And spirit soul can never be killed. So better give importance to religion rather than bodily considerations. That's what Arjuna is getting advice from Krishna. So, okay, so please So in this way, Krishna is reversing the Arjun's argument that by not fighting, he will save his family members from death or harm. Arjun was thinking, if I don't fight, what will happen? My family members will remain alive. But Krishna is telling that everybody's body must perish because no material body can have true existence. So in this way, fearing for the death is also ignorance. Because the spirit soul, the real person, is indestructible. So just like we give also example, no? When we say that now so and so, suppose my this and this relative has passed away. So now the body is there only. So who has passed away? The spirit soul has passed away. That means you never saw that so and so relative. The so and so relative has not actually died. It's only the body he has given up, isn't it? So one has not seen only who is our real relative. But and the body whom we were thinking that this relative is this body, that body has anyways gone and it is present, okay, in front of you, then why don't you take it? But no, now that body has to be cremated, isn't it? So in this way, we see, if we do a philosophical introspection, we understand that, you know, the real identity of a person is actually spirit soul. And he has his bodily connection, and the connections which form on the basis of this body are all very, very temporary. They are, you know, so for only for time being, they'll be there. That body will be there for only for time being, like that. Okay, so 19th verse, please recite.
Darshan Prabhu. Darshan Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Ah.
य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारम् यच्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजयन्तो नायं हन्ति न हन्यते. Translation: neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not nor in slain.
Yeah. So Prabhupada in the purport, he said that spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by material weapons. You cannot see only how you will kill. Neither it is by its spiritual constitution killable. Or it cannot be killed. That will come also ahead. You know, that another verse will come. Enam Chindanti Shastrani, it will come. So Prabhupada is using this word killable. No living entity is not killable. Isn't it? Very amazing words Prabhupada uses. So, what is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. Now, sometimes a terrorist may say, so anyways, I am just killing body and body is going to die anyways, so I can kill, or a murderer may say like that, right? So what is the problem if I kill some person? I can slaughter some animals. What is the problem? Because the soul is never killed. Body is anyways going to die. This is the nice argument, no? You know, this argument of
But you are not supposed to be doing that. You are not given that task, we can say. No?
Yeah, so that's what Prabhupada says ahead. This does not encourage killing of the body. So don't take this as a excuse. This is a misuse of Bhagavad Gita. You know, anyway, soul doesn't die. So I'm just liberating the soul from this body. And the body is anyways going to die. So I can kill now. So Prabhupada says, that's why Prabhupada knows that people will give this kind of arguments in future, especially meat eaters, those who want to slaughter the animals, they are going to give this argument. You know, so Prabhupada says that ma himsyat sarva bhutani, never commit violence to anyone. So it does not encourage animal slaughter. So Prabhupada says killing of the body, you know, without authority is abominable and punishable by the law of state as well as the law of the Lord. So you are not given the body, so you cannot kill the body. Yes, certainly the body is going to die one day or other. But who has the right to kill? One who has given the body. So material nature has given the body. Ultimately, source is Supreme Lord. So they have the rights to kill the body. One cannot kill like that. So now Prabhupada says, so why Krishna is telling Arjun to fight there? If the Vedic injunctions are saying don't do himsa to others, Arjun's killing body is not like that. Then Arjun also should not kill the bodies of others, right? Prabhupada says, no, being engaged for the principle of religion, Arjun is killing under the principle of religion and not whimsically. So whimsical killing is not allowed, but when one is killing religiously, and especially the one who is giver of the body, Krishna is telling him to kill, so then he can kill. A person, normal person in the slaughterhouse, he cannot kill the animals because he has not been ordered by the Lord to slaughter the animals, right? That is not his right. Neither he has given them the body. So he has no rights to kill that. So there is no this. So that's how this cannot be misused for meat eating. Yeah. So Srila Vishwanath Thakur, what he comments, the self is neither the subject to the act of killing nor its object. He who thinks that the soul is the killer, that Arjun is killing Bhishma and others, and who thinks that the soul is killed, that Bhishma and others have been killed by Arjun, are both ignorant. Because no one can kill nor can be killed. That's what. One who thinks that Ye inam vetti hantaram, yes chainam manyate hatam. One who killer or one who thinks killer and one who kills, both are considered to be one who is killer and one who thinks that somebody is killed, both are in ignorance, basically. They don't know the truth. Mother gives the body? Oh, really? Is mother purposefully making a body? Mother is only an instrument. So abortion is not at all acceptable. So that's what now the person, if people think that now, if the mother is the cause of body, mother is the immediate cause, but it is not ultimately the mother who is giving body. Then if mother would have been giving body, every mother would have made her child to be most beautiful person in this world, right? Is mother designing the body of the child? In fact, she just receives the seed and she doesn't know what happens further. She's just waiting. That's it. Is that mother designing? Now let the hand be coming out, let the eyes coming out. No. So mother is not the giver of the body actually. So we cannot say mother is the body. The giver of the body is material nature, the supreme mother. That is Durga Devi. She is the giver of the body. And ultimately, she also does it. Yasya Dhaya, on the order of the Supreme Lord. Now he is saying that this justifies the terrorists that they are killing in the name of religion. No, this doesn't justify the terrorists. They are killing in the name of religion. Because the religious scriptures don't advise just such unrestricted killing. That is not at all mentioned in any religion. What do you mean by religious killing? It will come ahead. Religious killing means either on the battlefield or in the sacrificial altar. So this is not even in the Islam religion, if we mention, it is not said that you can just maintain a slaughterhouse and keep on killing animals. There are also procedure. You have to take the animal to the madrasa, cut it into, you have to, cut only a particular nerve so that the animal dies without much pain, and then cut it into 6-7 portion, give 6 portion in charity, only accept 1 portion. This is called a religious killing, which is allowed for those people who are in mode of ignorance because they are adamant to eat meat. But that doesn't mean that one can have a packed meat food delivered to your house and you can eat and saying that anyways, for the sake of religion, because our religion allows killing. It is like taking half logic. You have not taken the full procedure. In Hindu religion also there is a allowance for those people in mode of ignorance. For them, the meat eating is allowed. But how? Not unrestricted meat eating. It is only on Amavasya day. You have to take the animal to the goddess Kali. You have to cut and then chant so many mantras. Do so much of charity. It's not that just easy slaughtering of the animal is allowed. Mass slaughtering of the animal is allowed. Nowhere in the religion it is said. So in this way, it is not supporting terrorism at all. Now, the devotee is saying nowadays by genetic designing, scientists claim they have the ability to alter the bodily features of the baby. Also prevent genetic diseases. Doesn't this contradict the law of karma? Since one's bodily features or any disease or birth is due to prarabdha. Yeah, they are interfering with the law of karma. So what happens is actually that person who's interfered with the karma, his karma will come in some other way. So now here he has done patch up for the karma, but karma will come in some other way. Like for example, suppose somebody was supposed to whatever, born in a particular defect. That is his karma. He is going to be born like that. But if he change it, the karma will come in another way. Karma cannot be destroyed just because of the alterations of the body. So prevent genetic diseases and all that. Yes, one can prevent genetic diseases, but one cannot prevent all the diseases for the future. They will come here and there. So karma will surely come. The only way to destroy karma is through bhakti. There is no other way to destroy karma. No amount of any other things can destroy karma. Karmani nirdahanti kintu cha bhakti bhajam. Some questions now we will take later, otherwise we will not be able to complete only. We will go very slow. So henceforth I will take questions after our things are over. Okay, so we are done with 19th verse. Please recite 20th verse.
Devi Prasad Pro. Hare Krishna, Devi Prasad Pro.
Yes. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन्
न जायते
देवा कदाचित्
कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः
नायं भूत्वा भवितवान् भूयः
अजो नित्यशाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो
अजो नित्यशाश्वतोऽयं
पुराणो
न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे
न
Translation: For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Yes, please read the purport, some portion. First, begin.
Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or kutastha. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations.
Yeah. So there are 6 kinds of transformations the body undergoes. Which are they? Birth, growth,
Maintenance.
production
Production of byproducts.
Dwindling,
Dwindle and vanish.
And death.
These are the 6 transformations of the body. But the spirit soul does not undergo these 6 transformations. Means what? Spirit soul is never born. So last time also somebody was asking this question, right? That, is it not that the spirit soul came out? No. It is not that spirit soul was, at one point of time, spirit soul came out of Krishna's body. Not like that. Spirit soul is unborn. And so it's not that the spirit soul is taking birth along with the body. Spirit soul is always alive and eternal. Neither spirit soul dies along with the death of the body. Because what has taken birth, he has to die. It has to die, right? So whatever is produced, it is going to be destroyed. But spirit soul is never produced, so it is never going to be destroyed also. And in this way, soul has no past, present, and future. Is eternal, ever existing, and primeval. Like that. So Prabhupada says that is, there is no trace in history of his coming into being. ये सोल का बर्थडे कब है वो पता नहीं. Body's birthday is known, but soul's birthday is not known. So soul does not undergo 6 kind of changes. Soul never becomes old. Soul never has any byproduct. कि ये सोल से अब एक दूसरा सोल तैयार हो गया. एक सोल ने दूसरे सोल को जन्म दिया, ऐसा कभी नहीं होता है. Neither the soul, dwindles or becomes old or dies, like that. So now, again, Prabhupada says that in the purport that even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Just like we do not find sun sometimes, like in now. If you go look into the sky in rainy season, you don't find sun. But you understand the sun is there in the sky. How? By the presence of light. Isn't it? Because there is an illumination, we can understand the presence of sun. Similarly, when you do dissection of the body medically, when they are doing post-mortem or something, or even the surgery or something, somebody does heart surgery, he cannot find spirit soul there, because spirit soul cannot be seen materially, but one can understand the presence of spirit soul by the presence of consciousness. Just like the sun's presence in the sky during daytime, even though the sun may be obscured by clouds, can be understood through sunlight. Okay, so then there are 2 kinds of soul. Ahead Prabhupada says, one is minute particle soul, which is called as Anu Atma, and there is a big soul that is called as super soul, which is called as Vibhu Atma. And then Prabhupada gives Kathopanishad, Anayor Aniyan Mahato Mahiyan, Atmasya Janto Nihito Guhayam, Tam Akratuhu Pashyati Vita Shoko, Dhatuhu Prasadam Mahimanam Atmanaha. Like that. So Krishna is present in the heart of everyone as super soul. So Prabhupada says Krishna is the fountain head of spirit soul, super soul. Because Krishna is the source of super soul also. And in this way, Arjuna is the atomic soul. So Krishna is super soul, Arjuna is atomic soul. And what is the characteristic of this atomic soul in material world? He has forgotten his relationship with the Lord, super soul. And that's why he should be enlightened by the Lord or his bona fide representative. So Arjuna is representing all in general conditioned living entities, whereas Krishna is the origin of super soul. So that's why there is because this spirit soul has forgotten his identity as spirit soul and he has forgotten his relationship with super soul. That's why there is a need of enlightenment, and that is a need of Bhagavad Gita. Why Bhagavad Gita is spoken? So for that, reminding that you have forgotten your real identity. Okay. So in this way, this verse, Krishna is clearly delineates the eternality of soul. Na jayate mriyate. Soul is not born, never dies. Soul is aja. Aja means unborn in the past, present or future. Shashvataha, deathless. And in this way, Arjuna's fear of killing his guru is defeated because guru cannot be killed. Guru is going to live eternally in the spirit soul. And in this way, Krishna is going to dismantle Arjuna's argument against fighting. Okay. Please recite the 21st verse.
Deepak Sudhar bro.
Veda Vinasinam Nityam.
Veda Vinashitam
Ya Enam Ajam Abhyayam. Katam Sa Purusha Partha.
Katham Sa
Kamgatayati Hantikam.
Kamghatyantikam.
Translation. O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Should I read purposely?
No. So now in this purport, Prabhupada says everything has got its utility. And one who knows properly, one who is in knowledge, he knows how to utilize a particular thing for its utility. So Bhagavad Gita is not meant for just some non-violence. Violence also has got its utility. So previous verses Prabhupada condemned unnecessarily violence is not allowed, right? Ahimsa. Now here Prabhupada says that doesn't mean ahimsa is the only dharma. Ahimsa also has got its particular utility. And for what? For administration of justice, of peace, there has to be ahimsa. Isn't it appear contradictory? Hinsa for peace. Isn't it contradictory? You do violence for peace. But no, that is required. So how? Because the capital punishment, who is condemned for a murder, has to be given. So justice, a person who is chief justice, the court judge, he cannot be blamed. Hey, why you are giving punishment of hanging to somebody? You are doing himsa. Why you are killing this person? No, he is killing so that there will be peace in the society. If a murderer is not killed, what will happen? He will kill so many others, and the peace in the society will be disturbed, isn't it? So terrorist has to be killed. He will kill so many others. So this is killing for the sake of peace, or himsa for peace, like that. And Prabhupada is quoting Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita says that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in next life he will not have to suffer the great sin he has committed. So by not giving capital punishment to murderer doesn't save him from the suffering. In fact, it is a mercy on him. Why? Because just because he is scot-free doesn't mean that he will not suffer in future. He will have to suffer the consequences of his murder for the future also. So in order to save him, better the justice gives him capital punishment so that he becomes free from the sin of killing and doing a murder. Like that. So therefore, king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually what? Beneficial for whom? It is beneficial for whom?
Killer.
For all.
Killer. And for all, both. Not only for killer also. Because if he is scot-free, then he'll kill so many others. And when he himself is killed, he'll get a punishment for his killing others. So in this way, it is beneficial for both. So Prabhupada says, so Krishna, when he is ordering fighting, it must be concluded that the violence is for supreme justice. And that's why Arjun should not hesitate to kill and fight. So basically, we can understand the lesson from this is that, the authorized killing, who is done by the authorized person based on the authorized scriptures, that killing is beneficial. Whereas when the killing is done out of one's own whimsical attempts, that killing is condemned and it is abominable. So rather than Arjun, rather than rejecting killing of his, and that's what we see that, if Arjun says, no, my relative, this, that, but who is his relative? This fellow, Duryodhana, is a very great man. He is a very abominable person, irreligious person. And if he rules, what will happen? There will be big amount of adharma will be spread throughout. If Duryodhana could not hesitate to disrobe his own army, when he becomes a ruler, what will be the fate of other women in the society? So that's why such dharmic killing has to be done, and Arjun should not hesitate. He should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because again, same Prabhupada says that soul cannot be killed, and so for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. So ahimsa is not the only dharma. That's what And Prabhupada gives example of what? Surgical operation. Surgical operation is painful for the patient, but that operation has to be done for his welfare, isn't it? Similarly, fighting to be executed by Arjun in the instruction of Krishna with full knowledge, there is no possibility of any sinful reactions. So when Arjun was again and again telling that we will be tainted with sinful reactions, if we kill our opponents, we will sinful reactions. Krishna is nullifying this argument. He's saying you will not get any sinful reaction. Because why? Because you are fighting on a religious principles. You are fighting on my order. So you are not. Just like a judge, he is giving punishment for a murderer to be hanged. The judge himself doesn't get punishment. Hey, you are telling one person to be killed, you also should be killed. No. because judge is doing on the basis of justice, on the basis of proper codes of law. So that's why that killing is not this thing. When a soldier goes on the battlefield and he kills opposite party, does his countrymen hang him? Hey, why you killed? No. But when the same soldier he kills his neighbor, then that soldier will also be put into jail and given punishment, isn't it? So that's why authentication is a very important concept. If the authentication is there, then one can kill. Without authentication, there cannot be, one cannot kill. So that's what Prabhupada's point is in this particular verse. So Krishna is telling changing bodies is inevitable, and that's why he said anyways. So here Krishna is giving Arjuna the knowledge, and with this knowledge he can engage in warfare and yet incur no sinful reactions for it. That's what Krishna is telling. So now Baladev Devotion, what he says, Arjuna may think, granting that the soul does not die, still the bodies of the men called Bhishma and others are going to be destroyed in the battle. That is wrong, because it will improperly deprive them of the happiness they derive from their bodies. So for that, Krishna is going to speak the next verse to Arjuna. Asam Sijirnani Yatha Vihaya, very famous verse. But because our time is up, so we'll take this verse tomorrow. 22nd verse we'll take tomorrow. Okay. So we will stop here. For today. Tomorrow the very important verse Asam Sijirnani is going to come. Okay, now I can take questions. So we'll stop. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Gita ki jai. So now those who want, they can continue. So let us discuss now on some questions. This question I had taken. Animal sacrifice in the Vedic times in yajnas, and people used to take that animal sacrifice is done to taste the mantras. But we see that the animal who is sacrificed, that animal immediately gets a fresh body, youthful body. That is the first advantage. After the death of that animal, which will naturally happen in due course, he will get human form of life. Suppose that animal has to undergo another different bodies in different species of animals or birds or plants before coming to human form, all those bodies are cancelled. Now directly he gets human form of life. So in this way, sacrifice animals in the sacrificial altar is good for that animal also and good for others also, because it tastes the mantras, power of mantras, and in this way the sacrifice bears the fruit. So it is like that. It is not a facility for meat eating. Prasad. Yajna prasad. Take the mass, take the flesh prasad of the Lord. Not like that. Those animals who are killed like this by anyone, he has to again take up that new body in the same species. That's a very painful process. Suppose a goat is supposed to live for 20 years and he is killed at the age of 10 years only. Again 10 years he has to go through another goat body. Yeah, he cannot get liberated from that body. Because उनका कर्मा है ना 10-20 साल का वो goat body का. वो 10 साल में कर्मा चला नहीं गया, तो उनको फिर से goat body लेना पड़ेगा. फिर से वो मकी मुंह में जाना पड़ेगा goat mother के, फिर से goat का body लेके फिर से 10 साल जीना पड़ेगा. And if he is killed at 5 years, then our past cell के लिए another goat body has to take. So that's why people should be allowed to live their natural life, and they should be allowed to die naturally, because that's the way they are supposed to be killed.
Like now, if some person, for sake of his tongue, if he has killed some animal, and then because we have that concept, so they do something. They say in mantra that I'm cutting you in this life, so you cut me in next life.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say now, like you gave example of 10 years. Right, so 10 years again he will go into goat body, and in next life,
yeah, he'll become human, suppose, and no, not next to next life. When he'll become human, we don't know. But that time that fellow has to become goat. And he has to kill him. Either he has to become goat, or in warfare he may be killed also. Like in the warfare he may kill him, or in other way he may kill him. Right. Now, this is regarding who can bring the soul back to body. We have seen that Lord Shiva also brought back the soul to Lord Ganesh, like Ganesh. Yeah. That's why, see, Lord Shiva is also Lord only. See, Narad Muni, Lord Shiva, these are all incarnations of Supreme Lord only, right? If you read Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva is a Gunavatar of the Lord. Narad Muni is also Bhakti Shakti of the Lord, the incarnation. So these are like, the Lord's personal associates who can do that kind of thing. Okay. Then soul cannot divide. So how can we understand that amoeba or other living creatures in lower form divide without any gametes fusion? Another soul enters in that body. It's not that the soul is divided within two bodies. Does individual soul comes into their separate body? Yes. Sometimes we see some living entities are there. They can be just divided into two portions. They themselves divide themselves into two portions. There is no official birth. Starfish also does that. Okay. So they may do like that. They are like normal unka जीवन चलता रहता है. Suddenly they divide themselves into two portions. So what happens? Another soul enters into that body. There may be different ways of birth. The birth doesn't mean that 9 months you have to be in the womb of mother. So that's why Prabhupada gives various types of birth. Svedaja, Andaja, Jarayuja, Vidvija, 4 types of birth Prabhupada mentioned. So these are all different types of birth. So another soul enters. As soon as the person separates and makes another body, another soul enters into that body. I heard many stories where a living entity gets special mercy and goes back to Godhead. For example, there is one story in Gita Mahatmya that one hunter shot an arrow at a bird, and that bird falls in skull, which was of Roshi, who used to chant chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day. There are many stories like that, where a jiva unknowingly, he has no desire to go to spiritual world, gets free and goes to the spiritual world. So why can't the Lord purify sadhaka bhaktas and take him to the spiritual world quickly? Why does he has to go through a very struggling anartha nivritti stage? Since sadhaka bhakta developed some desire to serve the Lord, but the previous one has no desire. How do we know that previous one has no desire? In this life, he has no desire. But you don't know. That's what actually, by understanding Bhagavad Gita, we have to understand this one factor very clearly. This life is not all in all. We had lived many previous lives. So how do you know he had no desire? He may have some desire in the past lives also. This is first argument. Second is Lord's mercy is causeless. It is independent swarat. So Lord can. Now, why Lord doesn't allow sadhaka? So that's why this type of krupa is very exceptional. So it is meant to, this type of example is meant to stress the importance of particular spiritual activity and the glory of it. But why does same thing doesn't happen to every sadhaka? Because if a person attains something without proper endeavor, he will not value it. Like if a person, and if there is a chance that he will take it for granted. Like for example, suppose you are a son of a big minister, and that minister calls the university, without studies let my son become topper, and every year one becomes topper. There is no value for such becoming topper, because you have not become knowledgeable. Although you may have become topper, but you have not gained any knowledge, neither you value it. So similarly, the Lord, the living entity, has to voluntarily surrender unto the Lord. That is the loving then only loving reciprocation can be established in the spiritual world. If there is no voluntary surrender of the living entity, then then that type of forcefully bringing him back to Godhead, will not, in the spiritual world, he will become troublesome personality then. Like that. So there has to be voluntary surrender, living entity has to do. But at the same time, when there is a strugglesome process of, when you say anartha nivritti, although it is a struggle process of anartha nivritti, but also living the devotee who strives for that anartha nivritti, he also experiences, if he practices the Krishna consciousness nicely, he also experiences the wonderful shelter of the Lord. So he also experiences the mercy of the Lord. And in this way, the relationship between the Lord and the living entity becomes very, very sweet and very thick. And that is a prerequisite to enter into the spiritual world. So these are exceptional cases wherein Lord may give sometimes some krupa siddhi and the soul may go directly back to Godhead. But this is not a general process. General process is sadhana bhakti. Nowadays, the judges of death sentences, do they get karma for that? It's a very difficult to say it, because if they are referring to the authorized Vedic texts, if they are giving on the basis of some kind of mundane constitution or not, then they get karma also. It's like, it is little complex, because when you say that it is your duty to give justice, but what is that duty? That duty has to be mentioned in the scriptures. That is called as duty. So, but if they are giving an appropriate justice, then they will not be. Yeah. So there is no, they won't get karma. They may not get so much karma. See, that's why there are levels of everything. Rather than saying will they get karma or not, it's a very tough question to answer. But if somebody who is killing on the basis of his whims, he gets a lot of karma. Maybe somebody who is doing on the basis of some law codes of the court, and it is assigned by him, assigned to that particular duty, and he does it perfectly as per the justice, then he may not get so much karma. But somebody who does it based on the scriptures, then there is no karma like that. So if one is not doing on the basis of scripture, then it is very difficult to say whether he'll get karma or no karma, because scriptures are the basis of any justice or injustice like that. So that's why it is a complex situation to comment upon like that. Similarly, many people ask also, now are these Russian and Ukrainian soldiers will go to heavens because they are dying on the battlefield? Russians and Ukrainian soldiers, will they go to heaven because they are dying on the battlefield now? Can't be said so easily. It was very tough to say, because that's not a dharma yuddha exactly, isn't it? It is more yuddha based on vested interest of the politicians. And at the same time, the soldiers are themselves not fighting. They are not killing on their own. They are killing on behalf of somebody. So it's a very complex situation to comment upon. Lord only knows. Mother Nature can tell what exactly they will like to give.
There are many questions after that.
Anybody else had any question after this? I saw this was the last question, right?
Prabhuji, what about killing done in self-defense?
Yeah, killing done in self-defense is considered to be appropriate. That's what previously Prabhupada said. 6 types of atatais can be killed.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
6 types of atatais can be killed. So that is appropriate. But now again, does it have a practical utility? No. Because in modern times, if somebody says that somebody has set fire to my house, can I kill him? According to the modern law, it is not allowed, right? So we should, that's why we have to tally both. A devotee cannot say, because just because somebody gave me some poison, I will kill him now. No, the right way is that he has to go and complain in the police and court and all that. Like that.
So revengeful killing is not correct. So you have to judge properly. Was it a self-defense or a revengeful killing?
Yeah, revengeful killing. Basically, we have to consult both. We have to consult scripture also and the conducts of the government also. It cannot be bypassed. We cannot bypass the rules and regulations given by the government in these terms. And government also, I think there are some injunction in the, I don't know whether there are any lawyers in our this particular group, but I think there are some injunctions like that. If somebody is killing in self-defense, then he is not given punishment and all that. But so that's what, something is there, some provisions are there for that also, as far as I understand. So Actually, that's why important to mention also, because a devotee cannot just say that, oh, I have heard in Bhagavad Gita, the Atatai should be killed. So I'll start killing now Atatais. That is not the only way. That's why we have to cooperate also with the local government laws and all that. That is also the point. So that's what Rupa Goswami mentions in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, I believe, as far as that a devotee should not be neglectful of his the codes and conducts of the place or society where he's staying in. That should be followed as a matter of duty, kind of duty. All right.
Hey, Krishna Prabhu. Couple questions. That is from the last lecture that we had. So there we had talked about the individuality of the soul. So how is the Sayujya Mukti looked after? I mean, like merging in the Brahman itself, because that says like getting merged into the Lord. So how do we understand it?
Merging into the Lord or Brahma Jyoti means that the particle doesn't lose his individuality. He remains like a particle in the sunshine.
But
just like in
merging into the Brahman, or it's because
either.
it's individual. Okay.
In either way, the one does not lose his individuality. He remains hanging. He remains like in the Brahma Jyoti, he remains in that position over there. But individual particle is there. He doesn't become homogeneous with the Lord. He doesn't lose his individuality.
Sayujya Mukti, generally they say like it's like merging into the Supreme Lord only. So I was just trying to understand whether it's like merging into the Supreme Lord or it's like merging into a Brahman.
Generally, because Brahman and Lord is the same only. You know, Vadanti Tattva Vidastatvam Yajnanam Advayam. Brahmeti Paramatmiti Bhagwaniti. So Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan is the same only. So when we say that somebody is merged into the Lord, that also can refer to merging into Brahma Jyoti. Because there is no difference between Brahma Jyoti and the Lord. Like, but also I have heard about there is a particular thing of somebody merging into the body of the Lord. Some acharyas say about it. But there also living entity does not lose its individual. It's like some bug is there. He's sitting on our body, something like that. That's what I have heard, but I can't exactly immediately quote reference about it like that. So there is something like that called this.
Another example, like most of the time we give these examples of like they say about the rice, we said. So the whole we have different particles of rice, and together when they there is a difference between like soul and the super soul. But then the example actually gives a kind of a impersonalism, who they support. Like when all these minute souls become together, and then that becomes a super soul. That's how, even for the rice examples or the mine and the gold mine. So that gives a wrong impression.
Actually, the example cannot be perfect. That's why it has to be used only for a particular cause. The analogy can never perfect. Like, for example, when Krishna's eyes are compared to be lotus, does it mean that Krishna's eyes also wither away like lotus? No. So the analogy should be used only for that much purpose, only for it is meant.
Yes.
If it is extends beyond what is purpose, then it loses its value. Analogy is meant to explain a concept. Is not meant to derive a concept from itself.
Right. Another thing was in text 16, like Prabhupada is now saying that in Vedanta Sutra as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations, and such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. So here in this case, like we sometimes also say that the spirit soul or the incarnations, they're all emanations from the Lord. So when it is something where we say that it is emanated from something, so there has to be a time frame. We all also understand like there's confusion like in spiritual world we don't have time frame. So then everything becomes eternal. But when we think about in this context where we say okay, it's emanated from the Lord, then the time frame comes in picture. And then how do we consider the eternity of spirit soul?
Actually, because we are accustomed to think on the time domain, so we cannot think something beyond time domain.
Yes.
So that's why it has to be accepted as inconceivable only. Because in spiritual world, the time domain doesn't exist only. So that's why there is no history for the soul. that okay, one point of time he came out from, emanated from the Lord. So this emanation from the Lord is more taught in terms of not the source in the way we understand as the source. It's a dependent relationship. On that basis, it can be understood. That spirit soul, although he is eternal, but he is eternal also at the same time is dependent on the Lord also eternally. The spirit soul is not that he was independent of the Lord, and then somehow now he gets connected to the Lord again. As gets connected to the Lord. It's not like that. There's a dependence on the Lord. So, but because we have no understanding of the something what can happen beyond time domain, so it's very very inconceivable to understand that how spirit souls are emanations from the Lord at the same time. Even avatars are emanations from the Lord. At the same time, they are eternally existing. So when we say it's the source of all incarnations, so when the Lord gave out this incarnation, never. So that's why it is more talked in terms of dependency, that even an incarnation is dependent on the Lord. Everything happens based on the instructions of Krishna. So that way is like a origin or source of everyone. But apart from that, there is no history that this particular incarnation was not present before and now suddenly it has come out of that type of thing is not there. So it was no time when Ram was not existing and suddenly he came out of Krishna. That's not a concept.
Right. Okay, and another point for the soul project, like here it was mentioned that spirit soul cannot be cut, it cannot be, I mean, it has got its own position. But right now, what we say, like we talked about in the Kutastha stage that you say, like it has come as a compressed form, because in the spiritual world, it has got its full-fledged body where it actually expands and it shows his own form. But here it has come in a very minute form. So that means it has been compressed. So how, I mean, we are something like contradicting the statements where we say that it cannot be compressed or something.
It is not that spirit soul cannot be compressed. He can be compressed or expanded through, we see that spirit soul naturally has all potencies also. Anima, Laghima, Prapti. So spirit soul can become lighter than the lightest, heavier than the heaviest. So that ways, he can be bigger than the biggest or smaller than the smallest. Like Hanumanji, although having a spiritual body, he could expand his body and he can make his body small. Right? So spirit body is flexible, spiritual body is flexible. It cannot be cut or destroyed, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be flexible. It is flexible. So, and it does, how it happens is not by a very material means. One cannot take a spirit soul with this thing, with some what do you say, chimta or something we say in Marathi, and press it now. Let us expand it or let us compress it, with a compressor. No, not that way. It happens by the will of the Lord. But it has the flexibility in terms of this particular, because even the spirit soul is in the liberated state also has got that potencies. They can sometimes become so small. And Hanuman went to this thing, that Surasa, first was Surasa Rakshasi. He was increasing his size, Surasa was expanding her mouth. And finally understood that there is no end to such competition. So he became very small, entered into the mouth of Surasa and came out. So he could expand as a big body, he could expand as a small body. So same is spirit soul, but here the spirit soul is not expanding at his will or contracting at his will. It is a punishment given by the Lord to him. Okay, you come now in a small format, seed format. But the potencies are like compressed state now. More the spirit soul becomes advanced, spiritually advanced, he will become full-fledged manifested again. It's like that.
So like Proji, can we say that the more the soul misidentifies himself with this material world, the more it will become Sankuchit? Because we call it Sankuchit Chetana, and the more it will identify itself with the spirit, spiritual things, it will expand in the sense of not material compression or expansion, but an expansion of consciousness,
Influence.
basically.
Influence.
Okay.
Influence wise it is perfect like that.
Okay.
That's why the souls in the tree body has almost like a dead only. It's like a dead body only. Very tough to understand where it is living or because they hardly manifest any tangible symptoms of life or some microorganisms, like that. So their influence is very meager. Consciousness is very, very compressed or very, very covered over.
Hare Krishna, Puji.
Hmm.
Puji, my question was like, we say that jivas actually are the part and parcel of the Lord, and you said that that the soul actually they never actually emanated from the Lord. So what is the meaning of Puji part and parcel? Like, can you explain?
Part and parcel is having the same meaning as qualitatively same as
Okay.
the Lord, and it is having the same quality in minute quantity. That is called as part and parcel.
Okay.
So that way, it's
Sometimes
not
we-
exactly like a father giving birth to a son. We may say son is a part and parcel of father, but it is not exactly like that. It's only in terms of quality and quantity. Qualitatively same, but quantitatively it's a difference.
Okay. Okay, Puji. And another thing I wanted to know, Puji, like as we know that there are the three types of body, in which the subtle body actually the mind, intelligent, and ego. And if we read the biology on the scientific view, like there is no mention of mind and intelligence in the biology. Like,
In
where
biology,
this
it is
mind
not there,
and
but in psychology, it is there.
psychology, it is mentioned actually. Yes, Puji. So my question was that if they believe actually that, because we cannot see the mind and intelligence, no, Puji? Because it's a subtler, and the soul is more subtler.
Yes.
So if they believe on mind and intelligence, then why they don't believe on soul?
Yeah, because the mind's activities can be understood a little bit through its influence, but yes, it's a logical question to be asked to them only probably. Why don't you believe on the soul? Because see, one cannot see electron also.
Yes.
But we believe in electron how? By its influence. The electron has influence on the cathode ray tube or something like that.
Yes, Puji.
So same way those things which are unseen has to be understood through their influence. So that's why the soul can be understood through the influence as a consciousness. So that's a simple logic. That's what Prabhupada says. But because soul is spiritual by nature, so they cannot comprehend something like that. Whereas mind is material. So through subtle science, one can have some material, influences on the mind. Like if you give some type of medicines to the mind or speak some words, then the mind can be pacified or mind can be agitated. All these things can be done by some material means. That's why there is some kind of acceptance of mind, intelligence, and ego also. But even in the most of the studies which are happening or most of the things are happening only on a gross material platform only. Subtle and material platform studies are very less in this world. In fact, they're just beginning to discover subtle powers and subtle existence that they're hardly discovered anything. Most of the things which science has understood is all on the gross level of matter. Even subtle matter is very difficult for them to comprehend and understand. So there are very less amount of research or successful research they are able to do. But then in what to speak of spiritual, that is further ahead.
Yes, Puji. Thank you, Puji.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Puji.